What we do is we open Adobe Connect Pro to live stream this session. And we've had, until now, always visitors in Adobe Connect Pro, also watching the scene, what we're doing here in Second Life. And everybody is familiar what the background is of Machinevo. Is that so? Or Jens, could you perhaps also then tell a little bit more about what we're doing here and why we invited?
I'm not sure about Machinevo.
Oh yeah, great. And why we're so delighted to have you come and tell us the secrets of filming in Second Life. By the way, my name is Heike Philp, and I'm the owner of Edgination, and the initiative to run Machinevo, which is now in the second year already, is my initiative. We are part of a larger pre-conference online event, though, and some 2,000 educators, language educators, take part in what is known as an EVO session. EVO is traditionally, it's been going for 10 years. For 10 years, some hundreds of educators get together online in the uprunning of the TESOL convention in the States. So these are mostly English teachers. And there are up to 10, 15 sessions every time, and it's all about language learning with technology or language learning with new media. And we are the ones who've been in Second Life for a couple of years, so we've offered Second Life sessions ever since EVO has been around, or Second Life's been around. The first 3 times we offered sessions for newbies. And now the last 2 times, and it's always a 5-week workshop, we offered Machinevo to a workshop for 5 weeks, training everybody on how to create Machinima. And these everybody are language educators. They're Chinese teachers and German teachers and English teachers and Italian teachers and French teachers. So we have all sorts of languages. Already produced a couple of Machinimas since last year, and we're set out to produce another set of Machinimas this year. This year, first time ever, we have Chinese language, which is really exciting. And so I'm just babbling along whilst I'm opening the room. Okay, here we go. Just to give you a little bit of a background. With that, I pass over to Jens, actually starting the recording now and asking him to then introduce our guests.
Good evening, good morning everybody. It's nice to see you again here after we the other night saw My Avatar and Me. So we have it fresh in our memory, and we are the team, the Machinevo team, are very pleased to have you guys from the film making side present here tonight, or this morning here. I will read your names. That's Rob Gould, if I pronounce it right, or Rob Dalton, sitting on our right side, and yes, and he's the cameraman, or were the cameraman, and a Second Life photographer. And then we have Kean Kelly, who also took part in the filmmaking team. And then we have Mikkel Stolt, that's his Danish name, and his name in Second Life, or in the film, were Mike Proud. And he, of course, were the main character. He is at the same time co-director together with Bente Milton. Unfortunately, Bente Milton couldn't be here tonight. She got the flu, so she sent her greetings to us all. Yeah, Bente Milton, of course, she were the director and the scriptwriter and the producer of the film. Now, we are so pleased to have you here, and it's going to be an informal get together here where we can ask questions about how you made the film and all details, and how you managed the technical problems which we all have when we are filming in a virtual world like Second Life. And then, of course, it'd be interesting to hear what had happened since you had made the film. Have you any new projects? I heard about it's called Sustainia, a bit about that, and maybe you can tell us something also about that. But it will be mainly around the film and Christian time for people. I heard in the beginning, Rob, where we were talking about the film. It's some years since you started. It's about 5 or 6 years since. So you said, "Well, I can hardly remember the details." But how had it been going with the film? How had it been taken around? And I mean, during 5 years, and now we're sitting here and have just seen the film. What had happened since you made the film? Could you please tell us a bit about the history of the filmmaking?
As far as I know, it's been to several festivals, and Mikkel went to a few with it, I think. Mikkel, can you describe about what where people can watch the film now? It's been on TV in several countries, I think: Switzerland, Denmark, Germany. Yeah, not the UK.
Could you, I mean, from your point of view, Rob, the technical things, let us jump into things like that. But I can see Mike is writing in the chat.
Yeah, he's answering now.
So let us just give him a chance.
The idea came to make a film in Second Life, but when I was contacted by Bente, she already had Mikkel on board, and the plan, as far as I was aware, was to make a documentary in Second Life. And Mikkel, Bente and myself are all documentary makers in real life, so that's how it began. And it kind of took a fictional turn, really, because we realized that in Second Life that line between fiction and documentary is quite blurred.
Well, it certainly seemed like a reasonable possibility that it could have been somebody's real life as they became engaged.
It's been a constant theme of the feedback, as people say, "I had an experience just like that," and we thought it was a pretty far out thing when we made it. But I guess, without the supernatural beings and everything, it does seem to strike a lot of chords with people.
Well, certainly in the sense that we feel we get sucked in. Once you start getting involved in it, after a while you step back and you go, "Oh my God, I didn't realize this was taking so much of my life."
Yeah, and I think what the film captures very well is the split with your real life, and how Mikkel's constantly finding it harder to kind of fit it in here and there, and missing events and stuff like that. And I think when you first start doing Second Life, you really get overwhelmed with how all-consuming it is.
How did you start? I mean, were you newbies to Second Life? I mean, you had to find your way around and contact. And how did you start? Were you a part of a group, or did you just come in?
I came in because the editor I was working with saw something on TV in the UK about Second Life and mentioned it to me. And since he was doing all the work in the edit suite, I logged in behind his back. And that's how I found it. And it's a whole another story how Bente got to meet me. But Mikkel, I think, we tried to keep Mikkel's experience quite fresh for the film, so he genuinely was, he wasn't completely new, but he was kind of, I'd say, newer than I was anyway. He's lost none of his freshness, I might add.
And that's a good thing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Except when it means
great.
I have a microphone.
Great.
something that obviously that struck us all was the way that the film slid between Second Life and I don't know, First Life. Was that, and from an artistic point of view, really, I was thinking, how did you determine at which point in any given scene to think, now we will go into Second Life, or now we will go back, or was it just intuitive?
I think it was mostly intuitive. It wasn't really. We planned sequences in Second Life and we planned sequences in real life. Actually, I think one of the most effective bits, Mikkel, you may disagree, but I think one of the most effective bits that wasn't even, I don't think it was in the film in the end, was a trailer that we made with Mikkel and I sitting in his office, and it cut backwards and forwards from us in real life and our characters in Helena's nightclub. And that, I still think that's one of the most compelling bits, really, that we filmed. And it was all filmed genuinely with a camera shooting simultaneously in real life and as I was shooting in Second Life. And that's a kind of luxury, I suppose, that it's expensive, which is why we didn't do it for every scene. I think it's on Vimeo, isn't it, Mikkel? That scene, even if it wasn't used in the movie for some reason.
Well, have you all met in real life?
Mikkel and I have met, but we never met Kean, who's one of the people who helped us out, right from the start, or Helena. And in fact, most of the actors, I'd say, we haven't met. We did kind of invite people to the premiere to turn up in real life, and maybe they did. Oh yeah.
That's certainly one of the interesting parts, how you start to get quite profound professional or personal relationships with people, and you've never really met them in real life. I've only ever met one person in real life that I know of in Second Life.
Yeah, it is. You get so used to working with people in that way. It doesn't really. You don't feel that you have to meet them in real life in order to work with them at all.
Yeah, and that's an interesting crossover point when you do get that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, it's funny because I met Mikkel in real life before I met him in Second Life, and I think Bente as well. I know I met Bente in real life before I went over to Copenhagen, and when I met her in real life, she was an avatar called Dirk something, and she was a really overweight guy, and she sort of said, "Oh, it's my son's avatar, it's not my fault it looks like this." But she had to have a makeover later.
Yeah. And a lot of us here, again, I'm sure my experience is replicated here, spend a lot of time defending Second Life. Those of us who really love the place and see how you can do all sorts of things in it. I live in Germany, although I'm English, and I've almost given up. There was a time when in Second Life there were a lot of people indulging in child pornography, apparently. So if you said, I do a lot in Second Life, and they say, oh, the place where the child pornographers are. I'm just thinking, I mean this, not as a talking point, really. I think I'm going to forbid my wife to see this film because she will get the wrong idea of why I come into Second Life.
Yeah, and actually, it's more that we've had that reaction towards the end of the period we were making the film, I suppose, because we first came up with the idea in 2006. I think Bente contacted me, and at that point, Second Life was everywhere in the media. It was on front pages of newspapers, it was on Time magazine, and the media loved it. And I mean, I didn't have much to do with finding the funding, but I don't think Bente had any trouble really in getting interest from people in funding a film that was partially shot here. But now, you know, I was trying to get BBC World News interested in a 23-minute documentary looking at Second Life now. And oh yeah, sorry, that's my mistake. I didn't really have anything to do with the funding, so I'm talking out of turn there. But yeah, the BBC World News were kind of mystified that it was actually still going, Second Life, and that's the general reaction you get now. It's less, oh, isn't that where the pornographers are? Is it still going? Because everyone's moved on to Facebook.
So, it's besides the film, but still, I mean, our teenagers and our children even, and all youngsters, they are spending so much time in virtual worlds every day. I mean, more than they would go to school in the game world. So I mean, and Second Life is also a virtual world. I mean, one could also make film in their environment, in Warcraft and all the other virtual worlds. So why is it not accepted?
I think part of the problem is Linden Labs themselves. If you look at the destination guide and you have the adult thing checked, you get some pretty horrible recommendations for destinations when you first log in. I mean, stuff that, yeah, I would say they do better to kind of not shout about, really. But obviously, that's a large part of their business, so I suppose that makes sense for them.
Yeah, and yet that's why at least one language school in Second Life has created their own, you can only come in here and not go out of here, for their students, because they had trouble selling their business idea for language teaching to corporations when corporations thought, oh, we're going to be paying for our clients, for our workers to go in where there's all sorts of porn. It's a pity it worked out that way, because there's so much more in Second Life.
Yeah, I mean, being a teacher, I mean, as I said, I mean, I've only been here for 2 years, and I see there's a great potential for teaching to use that virtual environment where they normally have so much in their real life. So why not use that potential in teaching? And I mean, filmmaking. Now, I've been teaching filmmaking for many years in real life for students, of course. How did it figure? How many hours?
Yeah, we shot in different sort of sections. I'd go over to Copenhagen and shoot there, which may sound weird because you think you could film it, you know, anywhere. But actually, we found it was incredibly helpful having Mikkel and I in the same room, because there is in Second Life everything does seem to take longer. And it was very important for us to have Bente in there, because she would quite often give us a scene to shoot and then go and do something else. And we had to show her how difficult it was, because she just, you know, she didn't quite get it to start off with.
Is that a general challenge? I mean, could you maybe tell a bit more of that challenge? I mean, it's a technical issue compared with real life filmmaking?
I think when you're dealing with a lot of actors, that, you know, the communication with them, when a lot of people are not using voice, especially, is really difficult. You know, it was pre-voice, certainly when we started filming it, so that took a lot of doing. And you know, it's funny because when you're doing it, the text chat, it seems pretty natural, and it doesn't seem like it's taking a long time. But you know, you realise when you look at the clock that actually it probably does take longer to get the same message across than if you're on microphones. Voice came in before we'd shot the bulk of the film, and we had to decide how we were going to do it, and we just decided to stick with text chat, partly because a lot of the story was to do with the mystery of text. But yeah, the lip syncing, it's not. I'm just looking at myself now as I speak. It's not too bad, but I don't know. We get used to so much of this stuff in Second Life, and you know, you forget that for people who aren't familiar with it, it looks crap to them.
And typing in the film, I mean, after that scene, I felt like going home and committing suicide, because my typing's terrible. And I thought this typing was brilliant. But I was also thinking, you're implying that you have a plan, quite a detailed plan of what you're going to do, what you're going to shoot and where. But sort of general question, really, if you're a cameraman, does anything change as you actually set out to do? You know what's down on your remit, but circumstances make you do something different. Did that happen in this film or not?
Yeah, I think to a large extent it's driven by your personality, actually, as a cameraman or a director. And I find this in real life. I'm the same. I have to have a plan, otherwise I wouldn't get the job. But I very rarely stick to it. And in this particular case, I remember one scene, I don't know if it made it into the film, where Mikkel had been... there was a girl, Mikkel, can you remember? And she got really annoyed with you, talking to Helena, and she stormed off and sat outside or something. And I mean, we recorded it as if it was a documentary, and it was brilliant, you know, because it was all happening. It was kind of unfolding, and there was this jealousy and everything. It's going to sound like all the best bits weren't in the film now, sorry.
I never
There's
saw them.
A lot of people asking about the hardware and software. Do you want us to talk about that, Jens?
Yes, because that's what the participants are going to face here the coming weeks, the next 3 weeks, about the tools and so what to decide and frame rate and the dialogues, and so please tell us a bit about that area, what you could advise, how actually to make a Machinima film in here. What would you, in 5 points or 6 points, say, okay, that you must remember? I mean, just if you and Mikkel and Kean maybe could give us a bit of advice.
Well, I'm a Mac user normally, because the software that I use for editing is Final Cut Pro, so that's, you know, I've always had Macs for years. But what the first bit of advice I would give is buy a PC, I'm afraid, if you have a Mac and you're serious about filming here, because at the moment I'm sitting at a desk that's got a Mac Pro, a MacBook Pro, and this PC, which is the new one that Bente bought for the Sustainia project, actually. So it actually doesn't have hard drives at all. It's got solid state drives for recording, which is great for this. And then just get the best graphics card you can. And the NVIDIA ones seem to have a history of working better with Second Life than the other ones, whatever they're called. And then perhaps, yeah.
What about editing tools? I mean, we mainly go for free tools like, well, I myself use Camtasia and some other do that. I've also been using Movie Maker because that's free. I use that when I taught in real life, and I'm also using that in Second Life. To give us some advice, what do the professionals use, and what could you say from your experience?
Well, Avid is pretty much the professional standard. Avid and Final Cut are the two professional kind of ones, really. But I don't think it matters very much. I mean, it's only if what you're using gives you what you need, then you don't really need to spend a fortune on the editing software. The most important thing is to learn how to use it so much that you don't really have to think about using it. You can just concentrate on what you're trying to do.
Yes, and then of course Mikkel and Robin Kean, then of course it's a good story. I mean, storytelling, story making, the dialogue, which always are the important in any film.
Yeah, I
any
think
difference?
the most important bit.
Would you say there any difference between Second Life or virtual life compared with real life in making a good story in those two worlds?
I don't think there is, but I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I think there's some technical challenges in Second Life, particularly with if you're trying to shoot something that's going to be acceptable to people who don't know what Second Life is like, then there's some things that are difficult to get around. You have to kind of cut around. For example, people sitting on chairs and getting up off chairs is one thing that kind of, it looks weird to people who aren't familiar with it. But yeah, I think fundamentally it's exactly the same, really.
Yes. I'm still thinking, why didn't you start after the first film, say, okay, we have invested so much time, energy in that new area. Why didn't you start a new documentary exploring? What stopped you from doing that?
I think we needed to get some sunlight on our faces, mostly.
Yes.
But it was pretty intense. Yeah, filming, just sat down in that basement for for very long days sometimes. So we weren't desperate to start on a new one, I don't think. But I was mentioning I'd like to do more documentary work in here, do it so less kind of fictional stuff. But it's very difficult to get people interested in it now because of the stigma that Second Life seems to have built up for itself. But yeah, I know that Bente's got plans for the islands, and we still have the land. So yeah, and we did shoot some scenes for a children's film, Mikkel and I.
These are islands in Second Life that people can go visit?
Yeah, sure, but they no longer look like the set from the film. For about a year or 2 years, they were kept the same. But we had to get rid of that and try and repurpose them for other things, which Bente would be the person to ask about. But yeah, they disappoint visitors at the moment. Unless they're communists. We've got a big statue of Lenin at the moment on one of them.
Oh no. Could somebody type the link for the island or the Slurl? I certainly would love to visit it.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing from the film there anymore, I don't think.
I don't care.
Okay, that's fine. Oh, the clock, yeah. Helena owns one of the islands. And that's still hers. It's been re-landscaped, and actually, Paradise Lost, the club, was in ruins for a long time, and then finally we got rid of it. Yeah, I can't remember how to type a slur. Mike could have lost it anywhere, really.
I want to pay your attention. There is an avatar, my avatar group, isn't it so, Mikkel?
Yeah,
isn't it so? So I think there are some reference to that island there, that group, Second Life group. My
and
avatar.
it's also on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Sorry. Yes, I forgot that. And there's things going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who is the author? Who is the editor? Isn't that Mikkel, or who's taking care? Because certainly it popped some news up here the other day. Maybe Mikkel,
Yeah,
you can.
Still alive.
Yes. 100 member of that Facebook group, 500 people. So.
Sounds like I should go there and get it that way. But you have to have some diehard fans out there, you know. So even if they got a piece of dust that somehow was connected to the film, they'd be happy.
Well, I'm going to paste the names of the 4 sims into the into chat. The last one has recently changed its name from Sustainia, which you mentioned earlier, Jens. It's now called Transition Time. It's now not called Sustainia anymore. We don't use the word Sustainia. It wasn't sustainable.
Okay.
Can I ask you?
Sorry.
Can I ask you? I wanted to know. You touch upon a conflict between the owners of the Second Life and people who create stuff there. So, how true was this conflict, and what was the resolution of it?
That's interesting. Actually, that was a genuine kind of protest movement around that time, which. I think it happened when they raised the prices of the land or something like that. I think it was resolved because Linden Labs can do what they want, and a lot of people moved to OpenSim, and then a lot of them came back because it's pretty lonely if no one else is going to, sharing the same world. So I think in some ways it hasn't been resolved, and that's partly why people have left Second Life. They want more control than Linden Labs gives us, and OpenSim doesn't quite. Well, I've tried it, and I'm sure it's great, but it's very hard to get quality stuff in OpenSim unless it's just been ripped out of Second Life, I think. But I could be wrong. I might just be looking in the wrong places.
Possible to rip things out of Second Life to an OpenSim? I didn't know that.
Sorry, Barbara?
It's possible to take all the things we've built with so many hours and effort in Second Life into an OpenSim?
Yeah, Heike is right. It's not legally possible, but if it's your stuff that you've built, actually, I think it probably is. And they're your textures. You can, you can export stuff.
Oh, that's nice to know.
You can export, but you might lose your avatar in the process. Valred Cat, can you mute your microphone? Can I ask another question? A really sort of deeper question, I would say. The film in total spelled for me something which I would call the law of attraction today. But law of attraction, it has only become a sort of a term since the books The Secret come out. You, however, you started to incorporate that in your film so early that I was really wondering sort of who is the inspiring mind behind this?
I'm not even sure what the law of attraction is, I'm afraid. Can you explain it?
The law of attraction is that if you have it in your mind to find something, then you are being attracted to the people who have that information. For example, he went to this guru, this meditation center, but he met there the person from Akasha, and that is a typical scene that if you're searching for something and if you're desperately wanting it, if you put a lot of feelings into it, then you are being attracted to the various things. Yeah, sorry.
Kind of like synchronicity. Carl Jung's theory.
Yes.
Attract each other. Yeah.
Exactly.
Lots of things has been happening with this movie, no?
Yeah. That with this, the whole thing seems to be a bit of a coincidence, really. And I was just thinking it's Bente probably who would be the person who, the inspiring mind, wouldn't you say, Mikkel, for the mystical aspects of the film? And Peter, actually, Peter Engberg, who accompanied Mikkel up the mountain. He's a genuinely kind of mystical character.
How much of the script was written before filming, and how much was modified during in the process? So, did you have the whole complete story in front of you before you started filming? Thank you.
I think the whole thing changed during filming, didn't it, Mikkel? I remember one Easter, Bente seemed to rewrite everything. I mean, when I originally went to Copenhagen to meet Bente and Mikkel, it was going to be a documentary following Mikkel's, introduction into Second Life and to follow his progress. But yeah, we have a lot of material
Please do.
that didn't make it.
And what were the greatest changes you made? I mean, crucial changes.
Mikkel, I have to let you answer that, really. I just pointed the camera.
The changes, though, don't eliminate the value and necessity for script writing. The script writing is a start.
Yeah, definitely. Helena disappeared. Yeah, she did. She genuinely disappeared, actually. But then, so we got that idea from something that happened. But she'd come back by the time we started filming, and she'd agreed to be in the film, and the people's reaction to her disappearance was something that we wanted to capture, because in Second Life it's one of those things that it's much harder to do in reality, is to just vanish completely and leave everything. So that was something that was inspired by reality. I think it was between the time when we first were going to make the film and we shot the trailer and stuff, and then between then and after we did the shot, the main thing, it's even more worrying if someone disappears during funding, I think.
I was thinking, I can see Mikkel or Mike, he's writing about that there was some external pressure upon you about from the Danish Film Institute, that you should make it more fictional. And of course it's a question about funding, and of course they had to accept the manuscripts, I suppose, before the funding from the Danish Film Institute. So did you feel it that you were tied up in that kind of outside pressure?
So as always, the answer is yes and no. Depends.
Yes.
I think Bente felt less constrained by what the Film Institute wanted. I think that's what Mikkel means. She definitely took to the idea of it being more fictional very quickly, which was something that was a bit alien to us. I mean, most of us who've been in Second Life for any length of time realise that there's enough true stories that are absolutely amazing here for for anyone to make films about. You don't really have to make them up, which is something that I think I'd like to explore a bit more. I mean, the problem with all the TV documentaries I've seen about Second Life is they've just got a couple of people who look like sad losers, and they film them, driving around in their fancy sports car in Second Life and lounging by the pool, and then they cut to them in their unheated flat, sort of burning chip wrappers to keep warm, and that it because it kind of fits the stereotype of people who are escaping from real life. And I think that's probably a very small section of the people in Second Life. I don't know anyone like that, but they're unfortunately probably the ones who are foolish enough to agree to be filmed for TV. But what I would like to do is to film a documentary in Second Life, concentrating on meeting people and not forgetting the first life. We don't have to cut to their first life, because you can get an idea of what people are like, especially if you use voice and stuff like that. And you can see that there are so many incredible people here who are really talented and really creative, and they overturn the stereotype completely every time. But getting them to appear on TV with their real lives would probably be a challenge. So I think we could forget the real life and just try and get them to show why they use Second Life and what they use it for.
Since you made Mikkel and you guys made the film, have you noticed other people being in that area? Some other film dealing with this subject here, Second Life, real life, or I don't remember, not like a 90 minutes film. Do you know any other ones?
There were some films. One of them I remember showed a woman who had a business in Second Life, a clothing business, and it was a documentary, and she wasn't Life 2.0, that was it. I have to admit I didn't see the whole thing, but I think it would be great to get more of those, because the point that's interesting to me is why do people spend so much time online? And it's because it's people. It's not about the technology or anything. It's just you get great access to people through a medium like this.
I've known several people who come in just because they like the view. I mean, they've created, or they know a place where there's a great view over a lake or something, and they come and sit there as you would sit in the other part of First Life.
I've done that before. There's places that are nice to sit. Yeah, definitely.
Could you maybe say a few words about, us teachers go very much up in the so-called added value. What is the added value in language teaching in here? And one could make it much wider and say, what is the special value of this virtual world? Why do we use it? Could you mention just a few points for you, what the advantage is with this so-called 3D world? Why are we wasting so much time?
I don't think any of it's wasted. Yeah, that's the point. I mean, people who don't know what you can get out of it might think it's wasted, but I mean that's just because of their ignorance, really. I think for language learning, it's obvious how beneficial it can be, because you can speak to people who are native speakers, and also what Mikkel says is that there is somehow it's easier to relate to people quickly in a virtual environment. There's less, strangely,
it's safer somehow.
Yeah, it is. People have their guard down more, and I think in a really strange way, it's less superficial than meeting people in real life. You're dealing directly with what the person says. We
have been here more than an hour, and maybe we should start wrapping it up. A few questions more, I think, would be all right. Is it okay with you, Mike and Rob and Kean? A few more questions, and then we will start wrapping it up.
Sure.
Anything from the chat? I don't have the overview of what's going on in the chat, but I can see someone taking care of it also. Mike, you had done well in the chat.
Before we leave, let me check whether I understood it correctly. So Helena was there in the video by accident first, right? And then you asked her to continue. Did I understand it right?
Well, she wasn't in it by accident. I mean, I knew Helena by accident, for sure. I met her by accident. And that's one of those things that can only happen in a place like Second Life. I don't think it would even happen in an online environment like Facebook or Twitter or something, because I literally randomly teleported to a site, and she happened to be building she was building a castle or something nearby, and so it was purely because of being physically, bumping into her, really, that I met her. And when Bente said she was looking for someone to take part in the film, I suggested that she might be good.
Okay, then if there are no more questions in the chat.
Well, I have one.
Yes.
When's the next film coming out?
Good question. Bente's actually asked me to film a trailer using this machine, which I now have in the UK. This one, for a project called Transition Time, but it's not a film. I mean, it would be filming a kind of a trailer to show people what a virtual community can look like, really. So yeah, I'd love to make a documentary. That's my plan. But it's finding someone to fund it when Second Life is kind of just a dirty word in those sorts of circles, really.
So thank you very, very much for coming and spending your time here. It's absolutely delightful, and we would love to have a group photo with you. Would that be okay? Is everybody wanting to come up from the audience and stand behind these sitting guest speakers here, please? If you could stand behind them two, then we can all take a group photo in the end.